Lena was an artist, a struggling artist. She had always been drawn to the world of colors and shapes, finding solace in the strokes of her brush. But the path she had chosen was far from easy. Her tiny apartment doubled as her studio. It was a space filled with creativity, but also with the weight of her dreams. Paint spattered the floor, canvases leaned against every wall. Each piece represented hours of dedication, yet they remained unseen by the world. But none of them sold. The walls of her apartment were a gallery of her unfulfilled aspirations. Lena's heart ached with each rejection. Every no felt like a personal failure, a blow to her spirit. She poured her soul into her art. Each brushstroke was a piece of her heart, a fragment of her dreams. It was all she ever wanted to do. Creating art was her way of communicating with the world, of expressing her innermost thoughts and emotions. But the world didn't seem to want her art in return. The empty galleries and unsold paintings were a constant reminder of her struggle. Days blurred together in a haze of charcoal and oil paint. The passage of time was marked only by the completion of another piece, another attempt to capture her vision. Lena worked tirelessly, fueled by coffee and hope. Late nights and early mornings became her routine, her dedication unwavering despite the lack of recognition. She haunted galleries, her portfolio always at hand. Each visit was a mix of hope and dread, the possibility of acceptance or rejection hanging in the balance. Each polite refusal chipped away at her resolve. The kind words of gallery owners did little to soften the blow of rejection. Doubt crept in like a shadow. It lingered in the corners of her mind, whispering that she might never succeed. Maybe she wasn't good enough. The thought gnawed at her, making her question her talent and her choices. Maybe she should give up. The weight of her unfulfilled dreams was becoming too much to bear.
One particularly bleak afternoon, Lena found herself wandering aimlessly. The city around her felt cold and indifferent, mirroring her own sense of isolation. The rejection from her dream gallery hung heavy in the air. It was the final straw, the culmination of countless disappointments. She stumbled down a side street, seeking solace in the anonymity of the city. The bustling streets offered a strange comfort, a place where she could lose herself. That's when she saw it, a dusty old bookstore tucked away like a secret. It seemed to call to her, offering a brief escape from her troubles.
The bookstore beckoned her inside. It was crammed with books, floor to ceiling. The air was thick with the smell of old paper and leather. Lena ran her fingers along the spines. Each book held a world within. For a moment, she forgot her troubles. She was lost in the magic of stories.
An old man sat behind the counter, his eyes twinkling above a pair of spectacles. He reminded Lena of a kindly wizard. He seemed to radiate an aura of quiet wisdom. "Looking for something in particular, my dear?" he asked, his voice a low rumble.
Lena hesitated. She hadn't planned on buying anything. "Just browsing," she murmured, her gaze sweeping over the shelves. "I like old books."
"Ah, an old soul," the man chuckled. "They say books have a way of finding you, choosing you even." He gestured towards a shadowy corner. "Perhaps you'll find something interesting over there."
Lena found herself drawn to the corner. It was as if an invisible force was guiding her steps, pulling her towards a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. The library was vast, but this particular corner seemed to call out to her, whispering secrets of the past. It was crammed with ancient-looking volumes. Each book seemed to hold a story of its own, tales of forgotten times and lost knowledge. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and leather, a testament to the countless years these books had endured. She reached out a hand, her fingers trailing over the worn leather. The texture was rough, yet comforting, like the touch of an old friend. She could feel the history embedded in each spine, the countless hands that had held these books before her. One book in particular caught her eye. It seemed to glow with a faint, otherworldly light, drawing her in with an irresistible allure. It was as if the book itself was alive, waiting for her to uncover its secrets. It was bound in black velvet, its pages edged in silver. The craftsmanship was exquisite, unlike anything she had ever seen before. The velvet felt soft under her fingers, a stark contrast to the cold, metallic edges of the pages. There was no title, no author's name. It was a mystery wrapped in an enigma, a book that defied all conventions. Who had created this masterpiece, and why had they chosen to remain anonymous? Just a strange symbol embossed on the cover. The symbol was intricate, almost hypnotic, and it seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she had seen it somewhere before, in a dream or a distant memory. She carefully lifted the book from the shelf. It was surprisingly heavy. The weight of it felt significant, as if it carried the burden of countless stories and secrets. She cradled it in her arms, feeling a strange sense of responsibility. As she opened it, a musty scent wafted up, like forgotten secrets. The smell was intoxicating, a blend of aged paper and time-worn ink. It was the scent of history, of lives lived and stories told. The pages were thin and brittle, filled with elegant script. Each letter was a work of art, meticulously crafted with a steady hand. The ink had faded over time, but the beauty of the script remained undiminished. It looked like a diary of some sort. The entries were personal, filled with emotions and thoughts that seemed to leap off the page. It was as if the writer had poured their soul into these pages, leaving a piece of themselves behind. But the language was strange, unfamiliar. The symbols were unlike anything Lena had ever seen, a cryptic code that seemed to defy translation. Yet there was something oddly familiar about them, as if they were speaking directly to her soul. Yet somehow, Lena felt like she could almost understand it. The symbols seemed to resonate with her, stirring something deep within her. It was as if the book was communicating with her on a level beyond words, speaking to her heart and mind.
As she flipped through the pages, a name leaped out at her. It was written in the same elegant script, standing out amidst the unfamiliar symbols. Her own name, Lena, was there, clear as day. Her own name. Lena gasped, her heart pounding in her chest. How could this be? What were the chances of finding a book that mentioned her by name? It felt like fate, like she was meant to find this book. She skimmed the text, her eyes widening in disbelief. The words seemed to tell her story, recounting events from her past with uncanny accuracy. It was as if the book knew her, understood her in a way no one else ever had. The words seemed to shimmer on the page. They glowed with a soft ethereal light, making them almost impossible to ignore. It was as if the book was alive, its words dancing before her eyes. They spoke of her life, her dreams, her fears. The book seemed to know her deepest secrets, her most intimate thoughts. It was both exhilarating and terrifying, like looking into a mirror that reflected her soul. And they laid out a path to success, a destiny she never dared to imagine. The book offered her a glimpse of a future filled with possibilities, a roadmap to a life she had only dreamed of. It was a promise of greatness, a whisper of destiny that beckoned her to follow.
At first, Lena dismissed it as nonsense, a strange coincidence. She had always been skeptical of such things, believing that life was a series of random events, not guided by any unseen force or destiny. But the book's words lingered in her mind, echoing with an unsettling familiarity. It was as if the book had been written specifically for her, capturing her thoughts and emotions with eerie precision.
I couldn't shake the feeling that it held some strange power over me. It was like a magnet, drawing me in despite my better judgment. It described my struggles with uncanny accuracy. Every frustration, every moment of self-doubt was laid bare on its pages. It spoke of my deepest desires, my hidden insecurities. The dreams I had long buried, the fears I never voiced, all were there, written in ink. How could it possibly know? How could a mere book understand the complexities of my heart and mind?
The book laid out a series of specific instructions, each one more peculiar than the last, yet they seemed to form a coherent path. Paint a portrait using a particular shade of blue, a color that seemed to hold a special significance, though I couldn't fathom why. Submit your work to a specific, obscure gallery, a place I had never heard of, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the city. Attend a certain art opening, even though she hadn't been invited. The event was exclusive, and I had no connections to get me in. Each instruction seemed random, nonsensical, yet there was a strange logic to them, a hidden pattern that I couldn't quite grasp.
And yet, I felt an inexplicable pull to obey. It was as if the book was speaking directly to my soul, urging me to take a leap of faith. Driven by a mixture of curiosity and desperation, I decided to follow the first instruction. What did I have to lose? Perhaps this was the breakthrough I had been waiting for. I mixed the exact shade of blue described in the book. It was a meticulous process, ensuring the color matched perfectly. It was a color I would never normally use, a vibrant, almost electric blue. It felt alien, yet strangely captivating.
As she started to paint, she felt a strange energy flowing through her. It was as if the color itself was alive, infusing her with a newfound vigor. The brush seemed to move on its own, guided by an unseen hand. Each stroke felt purposeful, each line a step closer to something profound. When she finally stepped back to admire her work, she was stunned. The painting was unlike anything she had ever created before. It was as if the book had unlocked a part of her she never knew existed. The vibrant blue portrait seemed to pulse with life, capturing an emotion she couldn't quite name. It was beautiful, haunting, and utterly mesmerizing. With renewed determination, she turned back to the book. If the first instruction had led to such a revelation, what could the others hold? She was ready to find out.